searching for answers.
Here are today's top stories.
It's been over 24 hours.
And the local news.
What we see are a lot of things that are going on the earth.
This is Art of Heaven News Talk.
Broadcasting live from WHPC studios in Garden City, New York. This is Art of Heaven News Talk, where we deliver global, national, and local news through the lens of faith. I'm your host, Johnny Brumit, and joining me today are my co-hosts, media personality Chrystina Zelarayan, and radio personality and Netherlands native Arnold Koekoek. If you want to help co-host, you can call us up and join the conversation. Lines are open at 516-572-7440. So, Chrystina Zelarayan.
That's right.
Is a newlywed.
Yes.
So tell me about that. What is it like being a newlywed?
So we have not even been married for 2 months yet. So we're having fun. We're just building our life. You know, we are getting our home together. We are realizing at the last minute that we need something and that we don't have it. The other night I had a rash on my arm. I was like, oh, we don't have hydrocortisone. Cool. That's just been kind of every day.
Nice. Isn't it fun?
It's fun, though.
I mean, I'm only right behind you. I've been married 2 years, over 2 years now. And people ask me all the time, how do you like being married? And I'm like, I love being married.
Yes.
It's just the only thing. It's a team. It's teamwork.
That's right.
You know? How long you been married, Arnold?
17 years.
Wow, so you got to school us, man. Tell us what we're over here dreaming about.
Well, I don't know. I just have a lot of fun. To me, it's like, it's a marriage, but it's a life partner. It's just doing life together. It's a lot more fun than doing things on your own, at least for me. So I'm enjoying it.
It's a partnership.
Yeah.
It is.
Said it. I mean, doesn't Scripture say that when one falls down, the other can help him up?
That's right.
Right? It's a team. Yeah. And that's the best thing, to go at this thing as a team, check with each other on every decision made.
That's right.
Love it. Now, you mentioned you're building your life.
Yes.
You're dreaming, you're planning things. Well, sometimes I look at the news and I'm like, whoa. It reminds me when I was going through, the preparations of being married and all, planning it. It was so fun. And I got so much advice. So many people stuck their nose in our business and tried to look down and say, hey, let me tell you how it is. I've been married 40 years. Let me tell you how it is. And they always brought up the fact that there's going to be storms in life.
Yes, you do hear that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's the exact phrase. I mean, they say a lot of different things, but there was one consistent phrase that everyone always said. You're going to go through the storms of life. It's at those times where you got to hold on to each other even more and all these things. Now, moving on to our big headline this week. Huge storm hit Florida up through the southern states to North Carolina. Yeah. So it reminds me, I just want to get your opinion though, Chrystina, since we're on this topic. It's good to have you back. You were out for a little while, honeymooning and all this stuff. Now, picture yourself building that life you're talking about and building a home, paying off a home, having your whole life, all your, material items and everything in that home, and it be washed away like what happened this week with Hurricane Helene.
It's devastating to consider. I think of a lot of the times when I watch the news, it's so not personalized. You just see another person go through it, but we don't think about the little things, like I even said, just buying that little medicine and buying the oven mitts that I didn't have today. I almost burned my hands, by the way. But all the things that you build, these little things add up over years and years, and you just lose them all in a moment, and they're gone.
Yeah. Can you picture that? I don't know. I mean, what if you put your whole life into building this thing up, and then a storm came by and it's gone?
It's terrible. But on the other hand, I'm trying to think. It might. I don't know. I'm kind of torn because there's a refreshing part about it, right? Because if I look at the stuff in my house, a lot of it is junk. I really should get rid of it. but
it's true.
But then there is this other part where you have some basic needs, right? And and I'm thinking, I have a boat where I could spend a few nights and I have everything in there, and hopefully it would float if you had floods. But so there's always these backup options in my head. On the other hand, I'm also realizing, it's not just you and your partner. It's also it's going to bring you closer to God. I think just realizing, you're not alone in the storm. and there's usually some, or hopefully there is some help along the way, and I see some of that happening. I saw some pictures and efforts from North Carolina where people were, putting out water and food and other things. And we talked the other week about what happened on 9/11, New Yorkers coming together. When these things happen, you'll also see a lot of good things. And I'm not trying to downplay the bad side of this, because it's horrible when you put all your money into a house. You almost maybe paid it off. It might be part of your retirement plan financially. Who knows? And then it washes away. And then from an insurance coverage perspective, you're probably relying on FEMA or any gifts you're getting from charity, and that's about it. So
yeah, but I liked how you started that off by saying it's just a bunch of junk. Now that's true. This is just material items. When you go through those things, you look at each other and be like, at least we got each other. At least everyone's okay, right?
Yeah. What's important? What's really important?
Well, sadly, I think the death toll is up to about 215 people throughout these different states, and that you can't replace. That's going to forever impact lives, and it's something we need to pray for these people. That's the hardest thing to go through, first and foremost. But I think right after that, not a close to, but is if you lose your home, that's one thing. Be like, all right, but guess what? What if you can't replace it? Because the reason I'm saying this is there's an article that the FEMA actually released saying just 4% of homeowners in the country have coverage.
4%.
4% on coverage of this type. And what I'm talking about is flood insurance. Flood insurance.
Mm-hmm.
People do not understand that when you get homeowners insurance, it does not come with flood insurance. All right?
Yeah.
They'll replace your house for hurricanes and this or that. But a lot of times, these insurance companies, they know what they're doing. They will not include flood insurance. So there's a lot of people, like a woman out here in Tennessee, Jonesboro, Tennessee, that floods swept her house away, and her husband went and tried to file the claim, and it was denied because
it's crazy.
And this isn't just some recent thing. People should understand, even during Hurricane Katrina, when the homes there were just decimated, gone.
Everyone check your coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so after this,
just to keep in mind, right? Insurance companies, they came into life not necessarily to help you, but they're looking to make money, right? They're for-profit companies, and so when it comes to the real risks, that's where the real risk for them is to lose money, and they'll try to exclude what most of the real risks are. So I think it's good to sit down and kind of statistically look at where are my real risks and what kind of coverage do I need, what coverage do I have, and how can we fill the gaps?
You know what? This reminds me, we have to prepare for the storms of life. Like you were saying, even in marriage, you have to safeguard your marriage. You have to prepare for these difficult times. And then also literally, we have to prepare. There's only so much we can prepare. And a lot of that is, I think, seeking the Lord and how to do that.
Building your life on a foundation.
That's
together.
right.
In my opinion, God's got to be in the middle of your relationship for it to be.
If it's not, you build it on sinking sand, right? It's like
it sinks quick.
Yeah.
But back to the Hurricane Katrina, to finish my point. Those people lost their homes, and when they went to collect that insurance money, they said, "I'm sorry, but the hurricane did not take your house out. And if it did, they would have got their money. But the hurricane did not take their house out. The hurricane took the levees out, and the levees flooded their homes. So there was a lot, and
I don't like that.
Yeah, it's if it's on paper, it exists. So, and these insurance companies are very smart. So what I suggest is when you get your homeowner's insurance, go and get another rider on it for flood insurance. You got to, and it doesn't matter where you live. They're saying that the whole landscape is changing with all these activities going on in the weather. So places that you don't expect to be flooded, like Asheville, North Carolina. I just drove through Asheville. It's so funny because I looked at this freeway where it was just taken out, and I just drove and picked somebody up from the airport in Asheville, North Carolina. It's just
crazy,
mind-boggling. Yeah, it hits close to home for my dad's side of the family down there in Tennessee. that went back generations. I mean, there's a town there that's never seen anything like this.
Yeah, I lived there
Massive
like
flooding.
2.5 years, I'd say, for about 45 minutes from Asheville. That's,
Wow.
In North Carolina?
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And that's where you were on radio, too.
Yes.
So, just let's keep those people in your prayer. And financial planning is very important. So, when you're going about buying a home and building a life, especially in marriage or single people, whoever, just be prepared for the storms of life and put the defenses in place. And defense for your money is called insurance. I'm a big fan of insurance. So, just want to throw that out there. Listen.
But our biggest insurance is our Lord Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Yeah, because what's to happen when your life gets taken? Yeah.
And I like the premium too. It's
It's free. It's the grace of God.
I'm the cheap Dutch guy here. So I
Like that. And you know what? I think you could be a good debater, Arnold. I think you should go toe to toe to some of these people. Speaking of
so.
debate, okay, let's talk about this debate this week. They're in the news. You're listening to Art of Heaven News Talk on 90.3 WHPC. We're covering the biggest headlines of the week, and a big headline was this vice presidential debate, right? It wasn't like the other debates, you know, it didn't get a lot of attention compared to like the presidential one, but I think a lot of people were watching, and it was a different type of debate. I think it's actually what people have been asking for a debate to look like.
I didn't have high blood pressure during it. It didn't stress me out as much, I will say.
It was a little cozy. It was kind of cozy.
And we got to hear about actual issues and plans or non-plans, or and it was interesting to hear.
That's always nice.
Yeah.
So Vance and Walz went at it in a peaceful, cordial way, right? Wouldn't you consider it? What was your takeaway at the end, Arnold?
They were at the end. I thought it was very interesting. I think overall, plans. I struggle with the plans on the side of the Harris camp, just because I'm like, some of their plans sound really good, but I'm like, Harris has been in power for the last 3.5 years, so why wait? That's kind of my question. Like, why wait? So yeah. I'm not putting. So there has to be a track record, right? When you say you're going to do something and then do something and you fix it, that's great. And if that's your track record, that's great. I think I struggle with the track record. So it has nothing to do with the debate. It's just I struggle hearing the plans, and I'm like, it sounds good, but I'm not so sure it's actually going to work, or that you're actually going to implement what you say you're going to implement. I thought it was very cordial, as we said. I think they were talking about kind of the personalities of the VPs and how we can look at that. And then there was like, one candidate that had, kind of, he said misspoken, but, it was a lie that he had portrayed. And then the other candidate, it was more about, hey, you changed your mind about Trump. Okay, and then that was explained. And as far as we got into it. But for me, I'm just looking at the debate, and it was kind of portrayed for us what characters we have. And they both scored pretty well, I'd say. One slightly better than the other for me. But overall, I'd say that's where you see where the characters kind of came out.
What do you think, Chrystina?
Yeah, to Arnold's point, I think they were pretty cordial with each other. It's interesting, they were almost like offloading their dislike for one another to their presidential candidate. So it was like, yeah, I like what you said, but, Donald Trump, that kind of thing.
That's
so
right.
I think that was interesting. I also thought it was interesting that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz did take accountability in some way for a way that he misspoke, quote unquote. It sounded like he actually addressed it directly. He didn't just pivot. So I had a lot of respect for him for doing that. I personally just really like JD Vance, so I thought he did great.
Yeah,
he did really good.
He was very well spoken, and I think I liked his facial expressions more. Walz just kind of looked like he was like shocked, big, wide-eyed, like,
There's a very wide eyes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
they were nice eyes,
Not taking, he just didn't look as comfortable and secure in his debate stance.
Yeah.
As, and he wasn't really friendly like Vance was. I don't know. But
yeah, and I think Vance
he's
kind
warm.
of also, put the things back on the right track, right? Because some of the the questions were set up by CBS kind of slanted, in my opinion, like, with the whole issue around Iran. Do you support a counterattack? And then Vance went in and sort of said, okay, well, let's level set, let's go back to how we started in October and how we got here. And he kind of framed the whole discussion with a little more context.
So he's saying, like, who threw the first punch? Let's restructure that question here. Is that what you mean?
I think so, yeah.
It's so interesting how when you start asking a question or when you have a question asked, how like there's a little bit of a bias in the questions that you ask, and it will shape the answers that you get. So I think it's like even when we just navigate life, the way that people speak to us, we have to like have our wits about us and be like, okay, is this a level playing field the way they asked that?
Yeah.
So
that is a perfect. This is a trick that state troopers do and police officers.
Oh,
absolutely.
I'm telling you, one time I got pulled over, and this was actually in the past year, and it was so funny because it was out of state, and the state trooper, he came up to the window, and the first thing he said so fast, he goes, "Was there a reason you were going 85?" And that's the first question he said, and he had such a thick accent. To be honest, I'm like, "What did you say?" And he goes, and I said, "No." But in a way, I actually confessed. I confessed in a way.
That's
so they could. If I tried to fight it, they would have thrown that back out. That's how. And he had a body cam on. So, because I'm a gangster. You know what I mean? But look at though, the perfect segue though, into a huge headline here this week. This is Art of Heaven News Talk, 90.3 WHPC, and we are going to deliver these headlines through the lens of faith. That's what we do here. This story has got the whole world just split 50-50. It seems like it, at least. Iran attacks Israel. The whole world is conflicted over this.
Yeah.
So many different opinions and sides, and it's huge news. We could talk about this every week, but I think it's only right to mention because Iran sent over a ton of missiles in response to what Israel did to Lebanon. Now, let's frame this for a minute. We all know October last year, what happened to start this thing. Now, Israel's being attacked from the west, Lebanon in the north. You got the Houthis from Yemen in the south, and you also have Iran from the east. In every direction, and this is a country the size of New Jersey. So, how do they defend themselves and keep the whole world and the UN happy? It seems like it's a very tricky thing because people are looking at the devastation in Gaza that was done. Those neighborhoods are taken out. I mean, what do you do? These enemies are these enemies are
you
tough.
have to defend yourself, and it's kind of Iran sounds childish to me. I'm sorry. Like, Iran threatened, right, that if Israel responds with force to the nearly 200 missile attacks that they got, right, that they will attack again. And you're like, okay, so if you punch, I just punch you almost 200 times, but if you're going to punch back, I'm going to punch again. What kind of dialogue is that?
I mean, look, when you're in an argument, let's say in a relationship, or something, I'm going to make a point here, and I don't necessarily know if this is the answer to Israel but how do you stop a tit for tat?
Yeah,
is my question. How do you stop a tit for tat, Arnold? How do you stop a tit for tat, Chrystina?
I'm looking at your.
It depends on. You need to know the opposite party, I guess, right? Because I think if there is hope for peace, then you would maybe work towards peace. I think what's happening here is you have a larger fight where people don't want the peace. It's like death to Israel, death to America. It doesn't look good.
I think what we're seeing is so I'll start by saying this. I'm looking over at Johnny, and his shirt, it says mercy on it. And that's a huge word that we should be incorporating in our lives if we want a peaceful life, in at least emotional peace. I think what we're seeing is a lack of mercy and grace and forgiveness over a period of such a long time, and that just builds and builds and builds. But imagine if you have mercy, grace, and peace at the moment of conflict, how much you could prevent, how much devastation you could prevent.
Yeah.
From a little kid growing up, in the Netherlands. Like, I remember Iran and Iraq were in the news every night. And and there's been many wars, but Iran is like, it seems to be like it's one of them where they thrive on war.
It's deep-seated.
And so it's deep-seated. And so I don't think there is an easy answer on this.
I think I have the answer, actually.
Yes.
I think, in my opinion, this is what I believe. To stop a tit for tat, to stop this hitting somebody and them hitting back and hit for hit, in whether it's a verbal altercation, argument, or a war with a country versus a country, somebody has to absorb it.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's hard. It's a hard thing to do, but eventually somebody has to absorb the impact, and that will stop this going back and forth.
Tell me more about that.
I'd like to believe that, right? But I don't know that Iran would actually stop.
Yeah, they might. Yeah, at the end of the day,
if Israel doesn't strike back, would Iran stop? That's the question.
I think Israel did absorb it, though.
Yeah.
A year ago.
That's the point.
Mm. So this is kind of, they're going. I actually respect Benjamin Netanyahu very much as a strong leader. I think him and Bukele are probably the strongest leaders in the world right now. Now, like you said, mercy, Chrystina, mercy. I read this week. I woke up this morning, or a morning this week, and read the verse. Just jumped right out at me. Micah 6:8. Where God is clearly telling people, this is what I want you to do. I've given you the instructions to walk justly and love mercy. It says it in Scripture. Love mercy. And that's what jumped out to me, right? I've worn this shirt that says mercy twice this week because I thought about it. I'm like, how do we love mercy? We just carry ourselves loving mercy. That means we have grace on everyone, everywhere we go, you know? So love mercy. I love that point. That may be the answer right there. Right? So how do you think, what would you do if you were in charge of Israel, Arnold? Exactly what he's doing, or?
I think it's very hard to determine, because at some point it's like, if you show the mercy, right, and you show the mercy 10 times or 100 times or 70 times 7 times, as the Bible would maybe instruct you, right? And the mercy doesn't come, but meantime the effects of it's not just a tit for tat. I mean, these are missiles, it's like, it's not like someone has punched you. It's actually much worse. So to what extent do you then defend it? And I think Israel would know best what to do. Luckily, I don't have to decide it. I'm really glad I'm not in their shoes.
Me too.
Let's just put it that way, because I don't, because if someone keeps punching you every day and you keep showing them mercy, there's going to be a point where you're not just going to punch, you're going to give them a death blow to get rid of it.
Yeah, that gentle giant's just going to come out.
It says slow to anger. It doesn't say don't ever get angry either, right? So.
That's true.
All right, so let's move on to our next story here. A big one this week, the dock workers strike over here. This one's kind of a crazy story to me because it seems like something out of the future. When I was watching these picketers on TV saying, no more machines. Machines are taking our jobs.
They're taking everyone's jobs. It's crazy.
I'm just like, come on. Like, this is where we're at. 2024 here. So it's kind of looking like they're going to win. They've proposed a 62% hike in pay.
That's right.
And then somehow it was postponed till after the election or in January.
We're saying after even Inauguration Day, 5 days after Inauguration Day. That's interesting.
I think it is.
Well, I think because if they did go on strike, it's going to shut down this economy and people are going to be pissed, and it's going to reflect on who's in office.
100%.
Exactly. The optics of that doesn't look good for a party that says we're pro-union, and then it's the same unions that would throw the economy down. So, yeah, I think it's not a coincidence that this ends up in the earlier part of next year. But it's good in a way that it is postponed for now. I don't know that there's a we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, man. Yes. Seriously though, I hope it does. I'm glad they halted it because I want to get my toilet paper at the stores, and I want to get my vegetables arriving on time.
Yeah, my bananas. Yeah, all that.
So
and maybe we can bring some to the storm regions too, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's true.
That's true.
Yeah, and we got a whole lot to cover. In a few minutes we have left here, I want to hit a couple of stories. Pete Rose, died September 30th.
Yes.
And if you know anything about this man, and we're not going to cover it too much because we're going to leave that to Josh at WHPC Sports Talk after this show.
Yeah, he
but
rocks.
this guy, I mean, I have to bring it up because I looked up to Pete Rose when I was playing baseball. I dove into the base and called it the Pete Rose. That's what it was. That's what it was named. You know, do the Pete Rose. And he kind of coined that dive because he just went so hard. He was so passionate about baseball, but so passionate to the point that he was gambling and got caught and banned from baseball. So this is a man that just passed away. He was banned from baseball for gambling. And it just makes me think about doing the right thing, right? And then paying consequences, getting consequences for our actions. Like we all screw up, right? But how much grace and mercy do you have? So I actually was talking to Josh before this, it's interesting. Should we give him forgiveness? He passes. Should we now let him into the Hall of Fame after he passed? Or are we holding it? Because this was 30 years ago. And the man was Hall of Fame worthy. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's sad that he isn't in the Hall of Fame or a chance to be in the Hall of Fame while he was alive. To be honest, I think we all make mistakes, as you say. His apparently, when they even tried to work with him, he was dishonest, and so it didn't really help him. But I think in the end, I struggle with giving lifelong condemnations in any kind of way because it just destroys all hope for the person to climb back up and do something else. That said, there should be consequences to things that you're doing wrong. So there needs to be some balance, and it sounds like this might have been a little out of
It's like
balance.
cancel culture.
Yeah.
Before cancel culture was the cancel culture.
Yeah.
But I will say Pete Rose had an intensity to him. He played baseball ruthlessly, and I think that's how he possibly did everything. So,
But he was a cheetah.
I know he was.
Honestly, it's okay. I'm not really hating on the guy. If he gets in,
Mercy.
Show mercy. That's cool.
Show him mercy. Let's get him in.
There's one more story I want to get to before we head out of here for the day, and that happened in our own backyard.
New York City!
All right, so jaywalking may soon be legal in New York City.
Ha!
Can you believe this?
We've all been doing it.
I was about to start singing, start spreading the news, but okay, we're already doing it.
Jaywalking's legal today. It's not legal yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I lived in Manhattan, and I don't know that I ever walked straight. Yeah, I did walk straight, but it's a very common occurrence. I don't think it was ever enforced. So changing the law,
Listen, I don't even think New Yorkers know what jaywalking
I don't think
is.
so. They think it's just crossing the street.
That's normal way of crossing the road without hitting anything.
Yeah. So it's actually, this article says that some were surprised to find out that it's even illegal. So very, very.
Yeah, same thing with red lights for pedestrians, right? Is that illegal? I don't know.
I don't know. New York City is an interesting place. I'll just say that,
Yeah.
But we love it.
Yes.
You know what? I want to spend a year of my life living in Manhattan in one of those skyscrapers.
Do it.
That's what my goal is for our marriage.
Love it.
We
Nice.
got dreams, big dreams.
It's great.
Living in New York City and owning a home down south. How about that?
Amen.
All right.
You've been listening to Art of Heaven News Talk on 90.3 WHPC. My name is Johnny Brumit. I want to thank Arnold Koekoek and Chrystina Zelarayan for being my co-hosts today. You can check us here every Friday, 3:30 to 4 East Coast time. Have a blessed week.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.